The operating profit in the fourth quarter was significantly lower than previous periods during 2015. How come?
Well, basically the operating profit was around 44% of the entire year, but that was entirely due to one-off costs, and they fell in three categories. The first and the biggest one was related to Swing Universal, where we saw a lower expectation of the business as a whole, and that meant that we had to do an impairment of the fixed assets. We did an inventory write-down, and we also made some provisions for the cost related to our supply agreement, and that totaled around 9 million SEK. Also, as we communicated last year, we made a design improvement of certain clip products, and in that process we decided to discontinue sales of the old version, and that meant that we also wrote down the inventory of that, and that had a cost in Q4 related to around 4.7 million. And lastly, we made a reorganization in Q4, and the redundancy costs related to saying goodbye to some good people, but also to office space that we didn't need anymore, is around 0.7 million. So actually, if we exclude one-off costs, our Q4 is more than 2 million better than the other 3 quarters in 2015.
Vigmed has conducted a thorough review of the business and will increase focus on sales. Can you explain how this differs from your previous objectives?
Yes, of course, sales is always important, so no difference there. What we did when we went into 2015, we basically had 3 priorities. One was, of course, sales. The other was that we had an ambition of launching 2 new product lines per year. And the third one was to expand our business to territories outside of Europe or CE mark-based countries. And what we have found is that we need to show that we are success with the products that we have in the markets where we are as the first priority, and new innovations and new markets has to come later. So that's the key difference for the focus for 2016.
In your review, more focus is also aimed towards increased distribution support. Can you elaborate?
One of the first diagnoses that we made in the late 2015 was that we didn't really have a structured approach to our distributors. And we worked intensively with that as a team over the last 3 months. We now have a very structured approach. When we do meetings with our distributors, we have a fixed agenda. So we ensure that we talk about all the relevant issues that pushes both them and us to make the right decisions. Secondly, we have put a lot of effort into understanding tender management much better. We now have an overview of all the tenders in Europe for our products. We didn't have that before. That's a bit surprising, but that's where we were. We have that now, and that also means that we can have the relevant discussions with the distributors at all times.
Can you tell us more about the new organization?
So the reorganization has meant that we have created a smaller team, but a much more tightly knit team. We have reduced the management team from 7 to 4 people. So apart from myself, a CFO, Director of R&D, and a Director of Commercial Operations. And the Director of Commercial Operations handles both the supply chain side and the sales and marketing side. And that's quite important because we are a business-to-business operating company. So both towards our manufacturing partners and towards our distributors, we need to be extremely structured in the way that we approach them. And on the sales and marketing side, we didn't really have that before. With the new head of commercial operations, we have that, and we already see the first signs of an improved way of working with our distributors.
With co-financing secured by the rights issue, what awaits next?
Well, basically the emission that we did ensures that we now have sufficient funding to follow our priorities. So we need now to deliver on our sales expectations. We have good products. We have markets that are ripe for for penetration, and now it's execution time.
What will you focus on most in 2016?
Yes, that will be sales, but sales will come with the focus on distribution support and tender management. So we envision that we are much closer with our distributors, basically much more out in the market to be part of the tender processes and the tender discussions. And by that also learning, of course, more intrinsically about the requirements of the markets.